Hello everybody, this is Kiereek here, and today we're doing a review, part of the review and release series, for Command & Conquer 3. Now this is just the base game, this is not Kane's Wrath, although if you do have that one, it does add a little extra to it, so it's worth a kind of a separate additional look if you get a chance. Now, what is this game? Well, first of all, it's a real-time strategy game. It involves the traditional Command & Conquer formula of base building up units, collecting Tiberium, and then waging war on your opponent's base, trying to wipe them off the map. Now, it's the third game in the Tiberium saga, after Tiberian Sun and the original Command & Conquer. Honestly, I was a big fan of those ones back in the day, especially Tiberian Sun. I grew up on that shit, and for hundreds of hours I put into it. So this is kind of a big game when it came out for me. It's the usual kind of conflict, Nod versus GDI, and they have thrown in an additional faction called the Skrin, who are the alien race we've kind of been waiting for, I don't know, for quite a few years between games, I guess. Now, the pros, it's got the cheesy kind of live-action cutscenes that we've all come to know and love from the series, and Kane makes a return. That actor, he's been there, he was employed with Westwood back in the beginning, and it's great. I don't know. It's great they keep getting him. He's still around. He's willing to do it. I don't know if he actually works for the company. It's just like, please come back and do this video for us. But he is a icon of the series. Now, the transition to 3D worked well. In previous games, look at Tiberian Sun, for example. It was not true 3D. It was isometric 3D. And then they used voxel-based units. Voxels are like little blocks. You construct models out of them. And those voxels moved around. And they look pretty 3D. They look good. They look real good. But this is the real true 3D modeling. And it looks nice. You know, the graphics are pretty good. It's got a lot of after effects on everything. When you fire a rocket, there's fire and flames come out. When they're doing beam weaponry, you can see the light kind of bending around it. It's good, nice, polished graphics. Now, difficulty level, it's got enough challenge. Let's say that. It starts out easy on you, and then it gets pretty hard. Sometimes a little frustratingly so, to the point where I was like, this is bullshit. If you watch my gameplay video of this game, Command & Conquer 3, there is a level called Croatia, and it's kind of notoriously bad for ramping up the difficulty all of a sudden. I tried it many times, trying to do it the traditional way before I realized I could kind of, I don't know, not hack the game, what do you call it, exploit the game, to the point where it wasn't really playing it how they intended it, but it worked better, and it was doable. Now, it's got decent sized campaigns. You'll get 3 campaigns overall, right? You get the GDI campaign, you get the Nod campaign, and then when you're done those, you get the Skrin campaign. They are fair sized. Lots of single player action there, and then if you're interested, there is multiplayer. Mind you, the multiplayer I imagine is not very active nowadays, so good luck with that. It's more for the single player and skirmish enjoyment at this point. Now, the cons. It really relies on a rock paper scissors mechanic more than I feel past games did. For example, if I have an infantry unit, that infantry unit seems really invulnerable against tanks that are built to fight other tanks, which is kind of silly to me, because if I have a tank and it hits a guy at the shell, I expect that guy to die, right? On the opposite side of that, if I have an infantry with a rocket, he will absolutely wreck that tank, right? But if I have a tank that's designed for anti-infantry, it'll shred through the infantry, no problem. It's kind of like, well, where's the line there, right? I don't want to have to be constantly swapping out units and stuff like that. When it's silly that a tank should be able to crush them, just destroy a little infantry unit. Don't get me wrong, I think the damage is right. Infantry with guns should not be able to affect the tanks, but obviously tanks should be able to do some damage against infantry. I can't see a situation where that would not be damaging to them. Now, the Skrin to me feel pretty OP. If you put the computers against each other, the Skrin tend to do very well. And have played this as Skrin a bit, I really don't enjoy them. But I'll admit, when you get to the walker stage, the walkers aren't that expensive. And they seem to last a lot longer than the mammoth tanks or the Nod walkers or whatever they are. So I can see how it's easy to spam it. Their aircraft is ridiculously OP. If you get aircraft built up, you're done. Now, infantry squads, they've gone into the phase that a lot of modern games have, where instead of building one infantry, you build a squad of infantry. I never really liked that. I like to be able to mass produce tiny individual soldiers. I remember, again, Tiberian Sun. I gotta keep going back to that. Just, you could have a ton of infantry, and don't get me wrong, they'd be slaughtered potentially, but it was awesome to like fill the map with them and just rush them, right? And you could, because they were cheap. Now, the super units, on the other hand, aren't that super anymore. I'm looking at you, commandos, mammoth tanks. What is the Nod one? I don't have the cyborg commando anymore, I don't think. Their walker, for example. The super units in the old days used to be machines. Not literal machines, well, except for the cyborg commando. But, like, they would not stop for anyone. You could go through fucking armies. I know, it seems silly, right? It seems silly. But, like, the mammoth tank would decimate things. The cyborg commando could just wreck shit. And then he would heal in Tiberium. It was beautiful. In this one, I feel like I spent a whole bunch of money on these super units, and they just get wiped out. No problem at all. Someone will come with a bomber, and it's like, boop, gone. I'm like, well, there goes my 3,000 credits. Now, the technology has taken a step backwards as well, I feel. Like, in the original one, you had fairly grounded technology, modern-day stuff, with a little bit of sci-fi, right? The obelisk was clearly sci-fi. It shot a big red laser. You don't really see that in real life yet. Tiberian Sun, you got some wicked technology advancements. You got hovercrafts, stealth tanks, a mammoth tank Mark II that could walk on 4 legs and shot railguns and shit. Cyborg, subterranean drills. It all made sense in that atmosphere. It was great, and I fucking loved it. And then we get to this game, and it's like, oh, so your mammoth tank has been downgraded back to the original mammoth tank. And it's like, oh, well, that sucks. Why would you do that? You kept the juggernauts, and that was basically similar technology, right? But why would you degrade the mammoth tank? And then you look at the Nod, like, walker, its super unit, and that thing's like spindly and unrealistic. It's like, if you're gonna build a walker, you know it has to be thick and bulky. It's gotta be able to support its weight. But this thing has like toothpick legs and arms, and I just don't understand where they're going with this. Like, when you look at the screen as well, in Tiberian Sun, you were treated to a really eerie shipwreck that you had to capture at one point, and it would just look like it was technologically advanced and massive, and it kind of like built it up to be this great thing. And then you look at the screen in this game, and what do you get? You get weird tripodal walkers that look all goofy and shit when they walk. They swing back and forth like it's a cartoon. You get like little things that just look like tanks. They don't look like much at all. I don't know. I'm just really disappointed. I didn't ask for sea life. It looks like ocean floor life, like anemones and things. And I feel like they just missed an opportunity here. Finally, the new building queues. Again, RTS games seem to go in this way, but they separate their queues into multiple groups. So you have a queue for building, a queue for defensive structures, a queue for infantry, a queue for vehicles, and a queue for aircraft. It just gets really hard to go back and forth between them all. I miss the days when it was just a big scroll bar, and I could just whip down to a certain height in the scroll bar and click and queue up a whole bunch of units. And it's not like that anymore, right? I think one of the big problems is, too, it doesn't build units the same way when it does that. When you queue them all up in multiple tabs, it's building them all at the same time from each one. When you do it all in the big tab, it's, I don't know, it's easier to manage for me. It seems like they're building less intensively. Now, for the score, the gameplay, it's still pretty tight. They do have nice mechanics as far as the garrisons are concerned. I think they improved that a little bit. It does annoy me that some things are insta garrison kills, like the flamethrowers, but it is what it is. The actual control of the units is still pretty much the same, and I think they path better than they have in the past, which is great. So for gameplay, I have to give it a 1.5 out of 3. For the addiction, I'm just not seeing it. I don't know. You do a mission, it's either frustratingly hard and you quit, or you beat it and it's like, wow, that took a long time. I don't want to do another one. So I have to give it a 0.5 out of 2 for addiction. Reliability, I haven't had any problems. The game runs great. It runs really great, to be honest. It's very not taxing at all on my computer. The atmosphere, I think they were on the right track. They got the creepy landscape and stuff like that, but they're missing all the stuff that made a lot of the old ones great. I wanted to see something like the abandoned villages. Where are the forgotten? What happened with them? You know, what happened with them? What happened to the cyborgs? I don't know. It's like they lost a whole bunch of the lore. So I have to only give them a 1 out of 2 for atmosphere. For replay value, I'm not seeing it. You could do skirmish all day, but if you finish the campaigns, I don't know a reason of why you would want to come back and replay them. So I have to give it a 0.5 out of 2 for replay value. That makes your total score a 4.5 out of 10. It's not great, to be honest. I would recommend going back playing Tiberian Sun instead. If you really want a newer one, try Red Alert 3. I think they did a better job with that. More goofy, a little less serious, and I don't know. The goofiness fits there instead, whereas here it was supposed to be serious, and I don't know. They totally took it a weird direction. Thanks for watching, everybody. Go watch my gameplay videos, and I got other reviews up as well. In the meantime, stay safe, have yourselves a good day, and I'll see you all again soon.